Brazil has tightened security at the UN climate summit it's hosting after protesters breached a restricted zone. Since then, most demonstrations have remained peaceful, many led by indigenous peoples from across the Amazon. They're asking for greater inclusion in climate decisions. This is even as the largest indigenous delegation fights for the same inside the halls. Rachel Ting reports.
Some of these indigenous Brazilians have travelled for days by boat, truck and plane just to be heard at the biggest global platform they can reach, COP30. They've been joined by other activists from around the world. It's the first time since 2021 that protests have been formally allowed outside the UN climate talks.
We are the Yawanawa indigenous people of the state of Acre, Brazil, from the Amazon. There are a lot of climate funds being created, but we indigenous peoples from the grassroots communities, we get, just drops. And we need to create mechanisms where we grassroots indigenous peoples can get these resources because we are the most affected people.
I come from Pakistan, and over the past summer I watched my country drown in these floods, which are some of the worst we've seen, but we contribute to less than 1% of carbon emissions in the world. How is that fair? How is that equitable?
And to maintain safety, Brazilian authorities have mobilized around 10,000 personnel and more than 700 vehicles. Still, some protesters managed to break into the venue and people got injured. Since then, security has tightened further. Now, over the past few days, we've seen that security officials have been branching out further and further out of the entrance. While previously we only saw armed guards right at the doors of the venue, now you can see behind me that they're all lined up right where attendees have to get off their cars and start walking in. Now, over here, you can also see that there are new barricades where attendees have to show their passes before they're allowed to enter, and non-registered attendees are not allowed to go in. The government has condemned the violence, but it has also responded to the people's demands. Brazil has announced plans for 10 new indigenous territories to be legally protected.
A COP acontecendo no Brasil, sobretudo na Amazônia, possibilitou que nós pudéssemos organizar a maior e melhor participação indígena da história das COPs. Uma conferência do clima na Amazônia precisava ter essa cara indígena, essa cara da diversidade que é a Amazônia, além das florestas, as culturas, os territórios, e todos os povos que aqui existem. E nós conseguimos isso, demarcar esta COP como a COP de maior e melhor participação indígena.
The minister says despite teething housing issues, around 900 indigenous attendees are at the talks. That's out of a total indigenous population of nearly 1.7 million people. Brazil went to lengths to ensure such representation after its biggest ever indigenous delegation was outnumbered 7-1 by fossil fuel lobbyists in Dubai last year. She says the ratio has improved 2-1 this year. And her hope is that in future summits, the people most affected by climate change will form the majority. CNA Rachel Ting, Belém, Brazil.